We got our first look at Azurite Sea as Enchanted, a bunch of new cards, and the introduction of the first effect that allows you to play directly from the discard pile. Let's check it out.
What's up, Illuminators? It's Charlie Mattis back, and we're just over a week away from the release of Lorcana's next set, Azurite Sea. We've got a bunch of new cards to look at, including the new art style for this set's Enchanted Cards. Should we take a look?
Let's do it.
Okay, so this is one of our Enchanted cards for this set, Rafiki Ethereal Guide, and as you can see, there is a very unique art style applied this time, reminiscent almost of a pirate map, a pirate treasure map.
Almost like cartography, right?
Yes,
with this very unique Sapphire look, and you see that is actually going across every single card we've seen so far for the Enchanted. So it's definitely a theme, a trending theme here. I think there was a lot of mixed opinions about people just coming from all the colorful elements of Shimmering Skies, but I, for one, I'm expecting when you see this foil, it's actually very gold, very beautiful, almost like the Mickey maybe. So I'm hoping for the best. I actually love it. I do love it.
We did a little poll on our Instagram, and I think 60% of people were very excited about the new Enchanteds, and then it was about 20 were on the fence and 20 didn't like them. I've got to say I was on the fence, but the more I've seen them, the more I'm actually coming to really like this art style. I think these can look absolutely amazing when you pull them from it.
I do like it, and I really like as well the highlighting of each ink type or ink color on top of the cards. It goes back to the video we made just recently about the ink types explained and the visual language behind it, the shapes, the movement, it's all there. So they are sticking to their own rules, which is great. But let's look at all of them. Obviously, the focus here is not to describe the card, it's more to show you the art, and we will do a dedicated video about all the Enchanted Reveals side by side with its counterparts, so stay tuned and check it out.
So our next Enchanted card reveal was Tiana, Restaurant Owner. I think we were expecting this one to get an Enchanted because the base card is just so beautiful. So Tiana joins Prince Naveen, both getting legendary cards in Amber and now both getting Enchanteds in Amber. I think this one in particular is fantastic, like the movement, especially of the waiters. Looks so
just
cool.
Beautiful, yes.
So the next one is We Could Be Immortals. This is a song from Sapphire, getting an Enchanted card. And for all of the Fallout Boy fans out there, I'm sure you're going to love this as much as we do. I think this is definitely going to be one of the ones we want to try and grab this
I think
set.
it's probably going to be a chase card from a lot of people because it's nice to see when there's a song, but also is representing all the characters in one single picture. So super good job.
And Big Hero 6, in particular Baymax, got another Enchanted. And again, I think this might be my other favorite Enchanted this set.
Yes.
I think in particular the texture on Baymax looks absolutely incredible. The movement. And you can actually see, as with the previous card, this is with the effect kind of applied on the reveal. So it's obviously going to look different in person, but we'll be very curious to see how that is. Next, we have Treasure Mountain Azurite Sea Island. This is a card that hasn't actually been revealed yet in its base form. So we'll save that until the card is actually revealed fully before talking about the effect. But this is another one that looks absolutely incredible.
And super cool again. It's the location. I know that is not always super popular, but I do feel like they celebrated in a very nice way. So I do like it.
Speaking of locations, Sugar Rush Speedway Finish Line is another location that got an Enchanted this set. Really interesting card. I know Mateus is maybe a little bit less high on this one, but I do love like the candy in the background, smiling, watching the finish line. But there's a lot of negative space on this card.
I think that's it. I like the close up to that compared to the other super rare counterpart, right? But when you see so many other cards, the characters, everything around, it feels a little bit empty. That's just me, obviously, but it's still very cool to see a location like that taking on that spot.
Next, we have You Came Back. This is an action in Emerald featuring Lilo and Stitch, and I think this card actually looks absolutely incredible.
So cute, so cute. Obviously, that's the reference for the end of the movie when he saves her in the ship. There were some people joking about that this card is already misaligned, so it is a misprint. Obviously, it's not. But apart from that, beautiful. And again, another example of ways to celebrate your characters in one card.
Absolutely. The Islands I Pulled from the Sea is our next Enchanted. This is an action/song from Ruby, featuring Maui. Maui getting his, I think, third Enchanted card so far. There's obviously some Maui fans at Ravensburger, but this is another one. Looks super cool. I love the kind of the schematic drawings of the Maui's fishhook in the background there as well.
That's a really great point, actually. You are probably seeing across the cards that there's a little bit of a blueprint, schematic styles
some of them,
across the board. It's almost like going back to the puzzle pieces we've seen in the previous set, right? Which is always a plus. We love those. So yeah, I think it fits very well.
I think this is definitely a case of an Enchanted that looks far better than its regular version. Amethyst's second Enchanted card. This one for me is probably my favorite of the set. Like, I love Yzma as a character. I do think the drawing on her is a little bit flat compared to what we saw in things like Baymax, but I love the background with all of the different ingredients that go into that poison.
It's amazing. It's amazing. The more I look at it, the more details I can see. It's so cool, and I just love her very lush eyelashes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. She's
so
my favorite villain, so of course I was expecting it.
Yeah. And then Wreck-It Ralph Hamhands is up in steel for their Enchanteds. This one's really cool, and I actually really love the kind of like pixelization on the energy around Ralph. I think that one is gonna in particular look really impressive in person.
It does, yeah, and it does bring back again the color scheme and the color language of steel. So there's a lot of very blocky elements, right? And again, the blueprints or schematics behind. It's very, very cool. And it's also worth noting that all the Enchanted for steel have been announced, as you've seen the location previously. So let's look at the last one under steel.
And that is Captain Amelia, commander of the Legacy. I think this is the one that looks most map-like from all of the enchanters that were revealed. This one is really going heavy on those kind of schematic drawings, the kind of very nautical, old-worldy way of representing it. And I think it's a card that really does make use of the full space. There's not really much wasted space here. It's all detailed.
Agree, and probably in general, that's probably my favorite one. Just looks-wise, it's just, again, it sells a lot the fantasy of Azurite Sea, and he also made so many rumors go around where people were expecting all the cards to form one full picture. I don't think that's the case, unfortunately, but still super, super cool.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And then the last enchanter we have for you today is Basil, Disguised Detective. I'm very happy that Basil is finally getting an enchanted card. This one looks super, super cool and was actually the first enchanted we saw, which is the one that was introducing us to the new enchanted art style.
Not much to say apart of also loving seeing Basil here taking this spot. We've been waiting that for so long.
And I think you were talking about the kind of the visual language of the ink colors.
Again,
and you can definitely see it here with the S-curves and the scallops.
So just repeat again, just check our ink type video explain. We go through all the visual theory, everything about the colors. It's just spot on. It's almost working one-to-one to what we would expect. So check it out. And
we're actually going to look at this Basil card a little bit later in this video, and we'll give you our thoughts on the actual gameplay. And with the Enchanteds done, let's look at the other cards that we have to check out.
Let's do it!
Alright, so first up, we have Lilo, Escape Artist. This was a card revealed just today, and she's a 2-cost inkable 1/2 that quests for 2, with the ability, No Place I'd Rather Be. At the start of your turn, if this card is in your discard pile, you may play it and it enters play exerted, which is, as Mateo said at the top of the video, the very first time we're seeing this effect where you can play a card directly from your discard pile.
And obviously, as you can see on the description, I think it's very important to notice you're still having to pay the cost, even if you're playing for your discard. It's not free. I know that the language is a little bit ambiguous, but it has to be paid. An example that you can compare with is Revive. So if you had the character with cost 5 or less in your discard, you can play that for free. The card specified very specifically for free, because I know that a lot of people reacted in a very surprising way, right? If we can also pay it for free, it's almost bring it back.
Oh, yeah, I think if it was paid for free, it'd be a little bit too
insane, yeah. But still very cool, and of course it's a super rare, so it does make sense that there's like a slap on your face. It's almost like the next step of Daisy Duck, Donald's Date from the previous set. It's another super rare that can be very successful in Amber.
I think Lilo is going to be really strong in aggro decks. Yes, she enters play exerted, but that's one more threat that your opponent has to answer.
Exactly.
And as Mateus has been playing aggro, this set will tell you, often by turn 4 or 5, you're running out of cards in your hand. Being able to play a card from your discard is great. It's also kind of tech for discard decks. Like if someone hits you with Sudden Chill, especially as an aggro deck, you can kind of drop Lilo into your discard pile knowing you're going to be able to get her back. You can protect her with bodyguards, and actually she has really, really great synergy with a card we're going to look at next. And that card is Simba, Pride Protected. This is the last legendary card for Amber. He's a 5-cost uninkable 4/4 that quests for 2. Simba's a Floodborn, so he can shift in at 3, and he has the ability Understand the Balance. At the end of your turn, if this character is exerted, you may ready your other characters. So that's why he has particularly good synergy with Lilo, because you can bring her in, she'll enter play exerted, and then you can quest with Simba, or you can shift Simba to then ready her at the end of your turn. So I think Simba has a lot of utility in a lot of different Amber shells. He could work in an aggro deck. A lot of Amber aggro decks are already playing Simba Bodyguard, so you could play Simba Pride Protector on top of him to protect your other characters. You could even potentially find a home for him in something like Steel Song. He's a 5-cost, so he can sing the big songs that you would want to sing. In terms of the wording of his ability, it is like Moana of Motunui. So if you want to ready one character, you have to ready all of your characters. You can't ready one and leave others exerted. So he does kind of negate some of the bodyguarding effects you might want in an aggro deck. So that is very important to point out. But actually, a lot of people were talking about the synergy between him and the new Judy Hopps Resourceful Rabbit. So both of them have end of turn effects. she'll let you ready another chosen character of yours at the end of your turn. So you can trigger Simba's effect first, ready all of your characters, then trigger Judy's effect, ready Simba, and
stay stuck in.
Let your opponent deal with that.
Oh my god, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And speaking of Judy hops, next up we have a 1-cost inkable action. This is good job. Chosen character gets +1 lore this turn. Another great tool for aggro decks. So we've seen how strong an effect like this can be, especially with something like Donald Duck Musketeer Soldier. Again, Matheus has been making a lot of great use of that ability. This is kind of a surprise way to be able to just give a little bit of extra lore on one of your characters, and I think will definitely find a place in some Amber aggro decks.
It's we're getting a lot of support for aggro, right? Especially on Amber, so that's very impressive. I'm happy about it.
Yeah. This is my 5th take, but I'm going to do it this time. We have Gopher, Ship's Carpenter, a 4-cost inkable 1/6 that goes for 2 vanilla. He is from...
He's from Azurite Sea, his starter deck.
Ship.
Seaworthy crew. Sorry, guys. We've been trying to say those words back to back for 6 takes.
I don't know why it's so hard.
We gotta stick to this one. A Seaworthy crew is one of the 2 starter decks for Azurite Sea, and this card is that. Oh, sorry, and this card is there. And this is also the last card from the franchise Winnie the Pooh, I think. We're looking for all the friends. Yeah. We're missing Gopher. We have him here. It's a vanilla card, so we're gonna skip it as we usually do, but he's a pirate, a beautiful card, and will hopefully be good for your pirate decks.
Yeah, and we did it almost, kinda. Also from Winnie the Pooh, we have a location. This is 100 Acre Island, Pooh's home. It's a 1-cost inkable location. It's got a move cost of 1, a willpower of 5, and it has the ability Friends Forever. During an opponent's turn, whenever a character is banished while here, gain 1 lore. So this is another card that was revealed as part of that starter deck. And it's another potential tool for aggro decks. It's a location where you could put a bunch of your characters in, quest with them, and then if your opponent wants to deal with them, they'll either have to take out the location first, or they can take out your characters, but that's going to be giving some extra lore. So I think this is actually kind of maybe a sleeper card. I think this one could see some...
It's very cheap, right? Inkable at 1 cost, moving at 1. I think if you just put it there and start panicking your opponent, right? I think it's a cool one. And obviously adding that up with the action we just saw as well, that gives you an additional lore. It's just really good.
Yeah, aggro are getting quite a few tools this set. And last up, Rambo, we have Naveen's Ukulele. This is a 1-cost inkable item with the ability Make It Sing. Pay 1, banish this item. Chosen character counts as having +3 cost to sing songs this turn, which is a really cool one. I think probably the natural pairings are going to be something like Emerald. You can use this in conjunction with Ursula, Deceiver of All, and then you could sing something like We Don't Talk About Bruno Twice, which is kind of a scary concept.
It is.
You could also pair it in Steel Song. You could pair it with something like Cinderella, Ballroom Sensation, and then she could be singing A Whole New World on turn 2. I don't know if it will actually see that much play. It is, you know, an item that doesn't really do too much, and it requires quite a few combo pieces together to make it work.
And you do have to pay a cost. So we're saying...
And banish it.
But yeah, it's very important to keep your eye on the cost. So there is a cost to activate, and then you always banish, so it's a one-off. But it's also super interesting to see, as Charlie said, a card like Cinderella that already has the singer keyword. This is added on top of the singer keyword, another base effect. So she's singing for 6. So it's interesting, but I will be curious to see if this will make the cut for Steel Song decks.
Yeah, I think they're pretty
It'd be hard
stacked
to find
right
the
now.
space. Yeah,
I think maybe more in an Emerald Amber deck it could see more
true.
play just because of the synergy with Ursula. And that will do us for Amber. So let's update the tracker now. Down there. Filling in those cards.
Down the road. Let's go straight to Amethyst.
Let's go to Amethyst. So starting us off in Amethyst, we have Madam Mim, a tiny adversary, a 2-cost inkable, 0/3 that quests for 1. She is Challenger +1, and she also has the ability Zim Zabarim Zim. Your other characters get Challenger +1, which is actually a really cool effect on a 2-cost character.
It is cool, because especially you don't have to be exerting. You can leave it there.
Yeah.
Unless someone can make a deal to take her from the board, you're just giving +1 to all your characters.
Yeah.
And obviously you don't have to play her at turn 2 either. She can come as a surprise later on and give this +1 to your full board.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. If you need to finish off a location and you need that 1 extra strength, then you can drop Madam Mim. It's an interesting card. I think the actual visuals of it's amazing. Her riding the matchstick. Next up for Amethyst, we have Sisu Uniting Dragon, a 4-cost uninkable 3/3 that quests for 2 with the ability Trust Builds Trust. Whenever this character quests, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a dragon character card, put it into your hand and repeat this effect. Otherwise, put it on either the top or the bottom of your deck. And first of all, the important thing to say about this...
Repeat this effect.
Repeat this effect, but it's also not a May ability. So if you thought about running a deck that's 60 dragons, then you're basically going to run out of cards just constantly triggering Cece's
just gonna lose the game straight away. Yeah.
So I think someone did the maths, and I think like you could have 40 dragon characters, and then you'd be drawing about 2 or 3 on average each time with her ability, which could be quite good. Unfortunately, right now there aren't a great many dragons in the game. We do have some of the Ceces, we have Maleficent Dragon, we have Madam Mim Dragon. But I think this might be a card to watch in maybe 4 or 5 sets time when we can have some strong dragon-based decks.
We were having some of those discussions on Discord as well about that. What I like about more and more cards like this is that it affects other characters like Prince Philip. There's so many synergies on Prince Philip in Emerald that relies on dragon, like the way they defeat dragons and so on. So I am excited. I think we can start having a lot of those, but then Prince Philip can combat them, and then there's a whole...
I think dragon meta in like year 3 or something.
Year 4. No, it's super, super cool. And it's beautiful. Super beautiful, this card. Imagine if we had another Sisu Enchanted. That's not happening, but imagine
Please, Ravensburger, no more. Stop it. And then we're going to go over to Tinkerbell, flying at full speed. This is a 3-cost inkable 1/3 that quests for 2, and she has evasive. And it's really, if you ever wanted Minnie Mouse Stylish Surfer in Amethyst, then here she is. Very much the same stat line. The cool thing about this Tinkerbell is that it is a shift target for Tinkerbell, Queen of the Azurite Fairies, which is a card, a Floodborn card we saw announced not so long ago. So if you want to play her in your deck, if you want to make a fairy deck, then you have another option there as well.
It's interesting. I don't think we're there yet, right? With all the fair synergy. I was expecting to see more this set. Maybe it's coming in Steel, but I'll be surprised. Still really nice. I love Minnie Mouse Surfer, so I like to have that version in Amethyst.
Yeah, I think the same way with Sisu, this is probably a card, at least the fairy synergy, that gets better over time. And next up, we have the White Rose, Gem of the Garden, a 3-cost inkable, 3/3 that quests for 1, with the ability The Beauty of the World. When you play this character, gain 1 law, so kind of a little bit like the Goat with slightly worse stats. She does come down 1 cheaper. She doesn't gain the law when she leaves play, but as kind of a small like threat to drop on turn 3, I think very good in limited formats as well. And which franchise is she from, Mateus?
Just from Alice.
Okay.
Alice in the Wonderland, yes.
So there you go. So a very cute card. And then the last Amethyst card we have today is Peter Pan Shadowcatcher. He's a 4-cost uninkable 1/3 that quests for 1 with the ability Gotcha. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your Inkwell, exert chosen opposing character. So another one of those
Blurb.
Inkwell. Yeah, another effect that probably finds a home in a Blurple deck, using the inking as a way to trigger it. So I think this one could actually be quite interesting. It's kind of like a Pinocchio talkative puppet that you can just keep playing every single turn.
I do like it. It's another one of those force exert that we described for Amethyst, but it's cool that it's actually conditional behind something that is more Sapphire. And finally, Peter Pan caught the shadow.
Yeah.
It's been only 6 sets. And there he is. Let's see how long it will last for. But super cool.
Yeah. And okay, so we'll update the tracker now for Amethyst, dropping all those cards in there. I think Amethyst did pretty well this set.
It did. Yeah. I still think the Umber and Emerald and Sapphire actually are the biggest ones so far, but there's still a lot to see on Steel actually, so we could be surprised.
Okay, so starting us off in Emerald, we have Donald Duck, First Mate. This was a card that was revealed as part of the D23 Expo, but we're finally getting a proper look at him and his ability. He's a 3-cost inkable, 2/3 that quests for 1, with the ability Captain on deck. While you have a captain character in play, this character gains +2 law. So if you want to build an Emerald Pirate aggro deck, I think this could pair nicely with something like Steel. You can play Captain Hook on turn 1, and then by turn 3, Donald Duck is going to be generating 3 law. But if you want to build an Emerald Amber pirate deck, then you could drop Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain on turn 2, follow up with Donald Duck, and you could be generating quite a lot of law. So I think this one's interesting. Right now, I think Emerald is probably the ink color that has kind of the worst pirate support, so I'm not sure how viable it'll be to go all in on that, but I do think there's definitely something there. Like, we know Emerald Amber is kind of quite good color for aggro. We saw that at the DLC with Clara's deck, and maybe these are some new tools that will go into that.
But that's it. But the keyword here is captain, is more than actually pirate. So as long as there are captains in other colors, okay, you don't need to rely on the pirate. That's not how it triggers this effect.
Okay, so let's talk about this one. We have Bend to My Will. This is a 7-cost uninkable action. Each opponent discards all of the cards in their hand. So if you ever wanted to make your opponent really upset with you when you play, then you can definitely play this action. Yeah, I know online, and even between us, there has been a lot of conversations about this. I know the discard mechanic is kind of a little bit of a contentious one. Some people love it, some people hate it. I lean to more toward the camp of I don't enjoy it, because I want to be able to play the game and play my cards, and if I can't do that, I'm not having a very fun time. But if you do want to play this card, I think it has some potential for sure. We saw the Iago Thick Flamingo card from set 5, which allows you to reduce the cost of actions when you quest. So if you wanted to play this with 5 ink instead of 7, you could definitely do that. The one thing I will say about this is it does seem like a scary card. It is a 7 cost uninkable, so whether decks are able to run a full set of those, I don't know. Maybe when paired with Sapphire and you can play a little bit earlier, you could ink it if you needed to. That is an option. But it is going to be quite a slow card, and a lot of time for discard decks, if your opponent has cards at turn 7, you're probably you're probably losing the game already. So
that is fair. I think what scares more is the scenarios that, as you said, that he could bring this earlier. I know that is very situational, right? But at turn 5, I think that's a very scary card. But then obviously, if you actually combine that with Ruby, I will be curious if people try the whole singing, the be prepared, and then playing this card. I think that's like the end of the world in the scenario. But again, very situational, very hard to pull that together. And for being an uninkable, hopefully not many people run that in their decks. Please don't run 4 copies of this in your deck.
I do feel like in a few years' time, we're going to look back at the early days of Lorcana and kind of look at these discard effects and realize they probably weren't healthy for the game. And I know people will disagree with that, but I'm really,
it's fine if it's great.
I know some people do love discard. It just, if it is a feel bad mechanic, especially in a game that's supposed to be kind of welcoming for all players. Like, imagine you're playing like the 10-year-old kid who goes to League and you hit them with this on turn 7. It's going to feel bad for them.
It is frustrating. I do feel like there's a space there. Obviously, that's why it is there, right? It is frustrating in the same way that maybe milling will be with Amethyst, introducing more and more now. But it's just we don't play Emerald most of the time, so maybe that's where we're coming from. We appreciate if you do and you like it, but it's not for me. And when I see someone with that deck, I don't even want to play against it, to be honest. But it is here. We need to deal with that, and we're exposing the ways to use it. So I'm excited to see what people do with that.
Excited and terrified.
Exactly.
And hey, if you want to discard, we've got even more discard. So I struggle to be mad at this card because it is Basil. And it's Basil Disguised Detective, a 6-cost inkable, a 4/5 that quests for 2. He has a Floodborn, so he'll shift in at 4. But he has the ability Twists and Turns. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may pay 1 to have chosen opponent choose and discard a card. So this is kind of almost a Bucky-like effect where you can be forcing your opponent to discard at least once, possibly even twice a turn once you've got Basil out. Being a Floodborn does mean he can shift in at turn 4. Maybe this card is going to be paired with Sapphire. I think Sapphire is the natural pairing. If you want to really kind of turbo discard your opponent, you could potentially get him out on as early as turn 3 and then start inking and singing songs. Some synergies that definitely will work well with Basil, of course, Fishbone Quill. Fishbone Quill allows you to ink and then use that ink straight away. So you can, you can basically be paying that 1 and then getting the discard from your opponent. The synergy people have been talking about is Friend Like Me, where each player puts the top 3 cards of their deck into their inkwell face down and exerted. So with that, you could force your opponent to discard 3 cards at the cost of...
As long as you can pay the 3 costs, 1 for each discard.
Exactly.
So I think that's the main difference with the old design of Bucky, right? Here there's an additional cost. Obviously, Bucky was triggered by Floodborn characters as well, but I feel like this is a healthier approach, personally.
It definitely
is scary, but it is healthier.
It's healthy, and I think it's also maybe a little bit slow, because I think that the problem with Bucky was you could start discarding on turn 2. With Basil, it's maybe turn 3 with Sapphire if you have the ink. I think it's going to be a little bit harder. More realistically, it's turn 4. I think decks trying to run Basil, especially Sapphire decks, will just get run over by aggro decks. I think they'll be able to finish the game before you're able to set up the combo. Friend Like Me also, because I know that is the one people are very excited about in terms of synergy. You've got to remember it gives your opponent 3 ink that they can use first. So even if you do manage to empty their hands, against a Ruby deck, all they're looking for really is a be prepared. If they can get to 7 as fast as possible. So that's kind of accelerating them.
But that's why I like the balance. I feel like there's a balance. This is a fair design. So Maybe do the same for Bend to My Will.
Yeah.
Just before.
Bend to My Will should be all players discard all cards.
That's it. Why don't you do a brief pair of discard? That sounds more fair. But yes, let's forget that and let's go to the last color. Sorry, the last card.
The last card is Owl's Island Isolated Entrance. This is a 3-cost uninkable location. It's got a move cost of 1, a willpower of 6, and the ability, almost read the French one there, Teamwork. For each character on this location, you pay 1 less for the first action you play each turn, and lots to learn. Whenever you play a second action in a turn, gain 3 lore. We've seen these kind of actions matter type decks kind of be suggested through some of the cards. I know people have been building a Ruby Emerald action decks with Robin Hood, so this is potentially some nice synergy there in those types of decks. Honestly, I don't have that much experience with these actions matters, so it's hard to say too much, but being able to reduce the cost of an action is always a nice thing to have.
And that is, again, it goes back to Bend to My Will, right? If you have 3 characters, you're playing Bend to My Will way earlier. But again, it's another uninkable card. Would you have all those uninkables just for the sake of that? Maybe not. I do want to call out one thing. So we're finally seeing what the Illumineers and the characters, the Glimmers we're trying to reach in the Azurite Sea. So that is the Owl's Island, as far as we can tell. We don't know who's inside. Maybe there's a new character who will be revealed very soon. It is a location, especially for Disney Lorcana. But I'm very curious to see who habits inside that place.
Yeah, I think the actual visuals of this card look amazing. Like, I love that the waves kind of made the wings of the owl.
It's so beautiful.
Super
so
cool.
Beautiful.
And very curious to see who is in Owl Island. And with that, we'll update the tracker to drop those emerald cards in. No more discard, please. No more discard. And then we'll go over to Ruby with Energy Blast. This is a 7-cost uninkable action. Banish chosen character, draw a card. So this is kind of like a more expensive Dragonfire. You're basically paying that extra 2 to be able to draw a card. Dragonfire is a card that's not really seeing play at the moment. I think the fact that it's a 7-cost action does also kind of make it quite difficult to run a full set of these. I think you would rather probably just run Be Prepared. Maybe. I think in draft, for sure, this could be a good one. And next we have Mickey Mouse Pirate Captain. This is a 5-cost inkable 4/4 that quests for 2. Mickey is Floodborn, so he'll shift in at 3. And he has the ability Mariner's Might. Whenever this character quests, chosen pirate character gets +2 strength and gains. This character takes no damage from challenges this turn.
Whoa, that's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. It was hard to do it in one take. But this is another one of the pirate characters that were revealed at D23. And in terms of synergy, Mickey works really well with all of the pirates. Obviously, he's a captain, so he's going to protect things like Captain Smee. But I think the very fun synergy that he definitely has is with Captain Hook and Master Swordsman. He has the ability that during his turn, whenever he banishes a character in another challenge, you can ready him. So if you give him +2 and the ability to take no damage from challenges, he can become kind of a monster who's able to basically take down your opponent's side of the board if they're exerted.
And he can target Peter Pan because they will lose the evasive and can gain evasive.
Next up in Ruby, we have Vanellope von Schweetz, a Gutsy Go-Getter, a 3-cost inkable 2/3 that quests for 1. And she has the ability, as ready as I'll ever be, at the start of your turn, if this character is at a location, draw a card and gain 1 lore. I know this is a card you're quite excited about, Mateus.
I do like it. I was trying to understand what are the best comparison to that. It's not 100% the same, but it's almost like she make any location in the game turn into a Queen's Castle. Except that obviously it's not 2 lore, it's just 1. You're not earning that possibility. She has to survive. But I like the flexibility that now I can get the closest to it just by applying. Obviously, it's 1 card, 1 lore. It's not equivalent, obviously. But she's also a character on the board. And I think it's cool because there are a lot of those vanilla locations, and it's kind of like, why would you ever play some of them? But if you're able to put Vanellope there, she's basically increasing the lore that they give, and she's also giving you that extra card draw. So I think that is really a really interesting ability. We've seen a lot of support this set, in particular for moving characters to locations, and I think Vanellope is going to be one to watch. Again, the fact that she doesn't need to be exerted, right? She can just be like hanging there, trying to survive and generating those things. I do like it. And it's really cute. I love her face on this one as well.
The art's amazing.
What is she trying to grab? I'm not sure. Can we see her eyes? I'm not sure. Is it the coin? I don't know.
She's trying to grab whoever added discard to the game.
Exactly.
Next up, and another card from the starter deck for this set, we have Skull Rock Isolated Fortress, a 2-cost inkable location. It's got a move cost of 1, a willpower of 6, and has the ability Familiar Ground. Characters get +1 strength whilst here. And it also has Safe Haven. At the start of your turn, if you have a pirate character here, gain 1 more. So we're going to see this kind of similar ability on another card from the Sapphire deck. But I think this is kind of an interesting card. It's almost like a tutorial for how to use locations. Like move a character here and then you get some benefits. Other than that, is it that great? I'm not so sure.
Not sure. I'm thinking that that's probably why the Gateway didn't have locations. They were waiting this card to be released so they can teach it with this location. I don't know. I don't know if it's a strong card either. I can see people playing their pirates deck just for the sake of, well, we will for sure if we do a team deck with pirates, right? But
yeah, it synergizes with the John Silver, right?
It does, yeah. It reminds me of the skull from the Disneyland Paris.
Oh, that's because that's Skull Rock.
It is, right? Yeah. So it reminds me very well.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And if you want an easier way to find locations, we have the action/song, The Islands I Pulled from the Sea. It's a 3-cost uninkable with the ability search your deck for a location card, reveal that card to all players, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So basically a tutor effect specifically for locations. I think this one's actually kind of interesting. We did see some kind of quite powerful locations this set. The Sugar Rush Speedway finish line. If you need that, if that's your win condition, you can play this song to be able to get it out of your deck. It can help you find things like the Queen Castle. There's often a win condition in Ruby Amethyst decks. So I think this one is interesting. It's a shame that it's uninkable, and I feel like we're going to see this with a lot of the tutor effects, that they're going to be uninkable just to kind of limit some of their power. But yeah, I think this one's quite cool.
I do wonder if, because again, as it stands right now as set 6, I don't think this card needed to be uninkable as it stands right now. But they're probably trying to think in the future, as they should, right? And the more locations come in, the more powerful they are. This card will be problematic. So I think that's where they're coming from. I do like the art we were talking about earlier, right? That we prefer the enchanted art, but I actually find this art also very fantastic.
It's super cool.
The whole angle and everything. But yeah, that's one of the ones that got into that enchanted slot under Ruby. Actually, the only one we know so far under Ruby. Talking about Moana, should we go look at the next card?
Yes, the next card is our first 1-drop Moana card. Self-Taught Sailor. She's a 1-cost inkable, 3/2 that costs for 1, and she has the ability Learning the Ropes. This character can't challenge unless you have a captain character in play. And that kind of makes sense. 3/2 on a 1-cost is very, very powerful. She's definitely going to be a shift target for Moana Kakamora Leader, who's the new Floodborn Moana. I think outside of that, this is just a nice card to be able to play on turn 1. Often, if your opponent wants to answer her, they're going to have to trade. Very few characters have more willpower at that time of the game.
You don't always need to be using for challenging, right? She can be there just as if you challenge, she will banish in the process. So I think she's a strong card either way, even if you don't have a captain. Obviously, you want to look for the captain. And it's important to say as well that she has the pirate classification, so there's other synergies.
And Princess, she's got a lot.
She has a lot. She's beautiful. Connie really did amazing this card. I think that's one of my favorite Moana arts, actually, if I can be honest. It's just outstanding.
And our final Ruby card today is Aladdin Intrepid Navigator, a 2-cost thinkable, 2/3 that quests for 1 vanilla. And let's update the tracker now.
We have nothing against vanilla cards. We just don't have much to say unless their stat line are very
interesting. Yeah.
Should we start on Sapphire?
Yep, let's move on over. And we're going to start out with Alice, a Savvy Sailor, a 3-cost uninkable, 1/4 that quests for 2. Alice has Ward, and she has the ability Ahoy. Whenever this character quests, another chosen character of yours gets +1 lore and gains Ward until the start of your next turn, which is actually really, really interesting. We've seen kind of a few cards this set in Sapphire that are kind of leaning a little bit more aggro than we've seen in the past. So hopefully that's going to mean we can kind of see some possibly new archetypes emerging this set. Especially around Sapphire Amber. I think that's actually an ink combination I'd love to try out.
This with Daisy Duck on the side, right? It's gonna be so brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're able to give Daisy Duck Ward, then that's going to make her a lot more difficult for Steel Decks to remove, which is often a struggle for Amber. But of course, you can also use it with Hiram Flavisham. Giving him 2 lore when he quests is great. Again, making him even more difficult to remove for Steel Decks could actually be kind of insane. So I definitely suspect Alice to be popping up in a lot of Sapphire decks this set.
True.
And next up, we have Dr. Delbert Doppler, Precise Astronomer, a 4-cost inkable, 4/4 that quests for 1 vanilla. I think this is very average stats, really. Just your bulk uncommon, I think, for this set. But he is an alien, so maybe an alien aggro deck.
Oh, he is an alien? I didn't even click. Yes.
And then next we have Sour Bill's Surly Henchman, a 3-cost inkable, a 2/3 that quest for 2, with the ability Unpalatable. When you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -2 strength this turn. An effect we've seen a lot of this set and previous sets as well, but a lot this set. But I do think this card looks absolutely hilarious. Like, I love Sour Bill in the film. I can already hear, like, I can hear his voice just looking at him. But yeah, I think this one is just okay. But you know, the 2 lore at on a 3-cost isn't terrible. Next up, we have Antcast's Biggest Fan, a 2-cost inkable, 1/3 that quests for 1, with the ability Happy to Help. Whenever this character quests, chosen inventor character gets +1 lore this turn. So Antcast is another one of those cards in the starter deck where it is focused a lot around the inventor archetype. So she is able to buff them up. I think being able to play her on 2 is quite good because it means you can get her out early game and hopefully be taking advantage of her effect turn after turn. But yeah, not much.
And probably just, if you're wondering, she is from Big Hero 6. She's the aunt.
She is. And she has the mentor classification, which we've seen 0 payoff for yet so far. But maybe we're going to get it one day. I mean, the classification's there. It's going to mean something eventually. Yes. And then we'll finish off Sapphire. And I think this is actually the last Sapphire card, if I'm not wrong.
This is the last Sapphire. We're only missing 1 Enchanted Sapphire. But the whole gameplay side of things, that's the last one.
Nice. So this is Institute of Technology, prestigious university, a 1-cost inkable location. It has a move cost of 1, a willpower of 5, and 2 abilities. The first one is Welcome to the Lab. Inventor characters get +1 willpower whilst here, and push the boundaries. At the start of your turn, if you have a character here, gain 1 lore. So like we saw with the Skull Rock, this is almost like a little bit of an introduction to locations. It's a very simple one. Whether it'll see much play, I'm not sure. But if you do build an inventor deck, being able to give them all +1 willpower, we know that can be quite effective with something like the Hidden Cove. So this is it specifically for your inventors.
And I think also, again, just looking at the specifications of the card, I could have 2, 3, 4 characters there. Yeah. I'm still just generating 1 lore. That is not additive, but still 1 lore is 1 lore.
And with that, we'll update the tracker for Sapphire.
Let's see this whole thing gets filled.
Yeah, it's really satisfying.
It is exciting. I just want to get this last Enchanted and put it there, whatever that is.
And then we'll head over to Steel for the last cards today. First of all, we're starting with Wreck-It Ralph Hamhands. This is the last legendary card for Steel. He's a 6-cost uninkable 4/4 that quests for 3 with the ability I Wreck Things. Whenever this character quests, you may banish chosen item or location to gain 2 lore. Very important because there was a little bit of confusion over this. It is your items and locations, but it's also your opponent's items and locations.
Whatever is on the board,
so yeah, I think what's really cool about this is he kind of has that double utility. He can be there as a removal tool against some of those, or he can be banishing your own items to gain lore as well. So you're always going to be guaranteed to be able to make the most out of his ability, and basically he's going to quest for 5, which is kind of nutty. Of course, like banishing your opponent's Lucky Dime, banishing your opponent's Queen's Castle, all of those are going to be really devastating for your opponent. But of course, also banishing your own Popsicles and then being able to bring them back later with Tamatoa, I think means that Wreck-It Ralph will probably find a home in Sapphire Steel. I think Sapphire Steel is going to be a deck to watch this set. It got a lot of nice new tools. Definitely a legendary to watch this set.
And it's beautiful. I love that.
And then next we have Mullen's Seasoned Shipmate, a 5-cost inkable 6/4 that quests for 1 with the ability Fall in Line. While you have a character named Mr. Smee in play, this character gains resist +1. So a little bit more fodder for your pirate decks. I think could be quite interesting. A 6/4 with resist 1 actually is really good stats for a 5-cost. So perhaps we'll see the emergence of some Mr. Smee oriented pirate decks.
I'm gonna have to admit it, I don't recognize him at all. I'm guessing he's from Peter Pan, obviously, with Mr. Smee, but I don't remember. Should I know him? Do you know him?
I don't. There's also Starkey, right, from the old sets. I didn't
recognize
Starkey.
I don't know.
Maybe you just played with that card a lot of times. And Gantu has his redemption arc. We have Gantu, a mule-headed captain. We think this is a translation. He's a 5-cost inkable 4/3 that quests for 4 vanilla. And like we said earlier, you know, sometimes vanillas are a little bit underwhelming, but actually with these stats, this is a little bit crazy in Steel.
Yes, nothing to add. I still find him very weak, right? He's very weak. He cannot be removed by Medusa.
He cannot. He can't be banished by Medusa. You know, play him with the new Alice, give him ward.
Yeah,
and then it makes him a
that
little
is
bit
true.
stronger,
That you can protect. Yeah, it's a lot of
lore.
Lore.
Yeah, and if you play him in a Sapphire deck, you can maybe get him out on turn 4, maybe turn 3.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
so you know, I think this one is very interesting, and it's especially interesting to see more decks getting more diversity. We saw the Mr. Big in the previous set of reveals we covered in Steel.
Yes.
Who was an aggro threat, and here's another aggro threat for Steel as well.
That's a good point. Yeah. I do like it. It's a good redemption.
It is a good redemption. Yay, finally a playable Gantu. And then next up we have Twin Fire. This is a 2-cost uninkable action. Deal 2 damage to chosen character. Then you may choose and discard a card to deal 2 damage to another chosen character, which is actually quite a cool ability. Will it see much play in kind of competitive decks? I'm less sure, but certainly in casual play, this is a very strong card. In a sealed formats, this set, quite a strong card as well.
For the more casual player out there, just because I saw the question coming up sometimes, when you're saying discard a card, it has to be, if it's not specifying your opponent and you're choosing, it's yourself, and discard is always from your hand.
Yes,
you cannot discard a card of yours that is in play. That is not discard. It has to be in your hand. Just FYI. Yeah.
And then last up in Steel, we have Pluto Guard Dog. He's a 4-cost inkable 1/5 that quests for 1 with the ability Bravo. While this character has no damage, he gets +4 strength. So almost kind of like the same effect we saw on Lawrence. I think this one is particularly interesting. We know Lawrence is a great card in Steel Song at the moment because of his lore, but also because he can be healed by Rapunzel. But Pluto has the added advantage of being able to protect characters as well, kind of
as a bodyguard as well.
Yeah, at the kind of at the cost of reducing the amount of lore he can quest for. So I do think Pluto has potential to see play in some decks. I think this is quite a nice card here.
Okay, should we populate the cards in Steel?
For one last time before the last time we do it?
Exactly. So let's do it. Yeah, we're hoping that, maybe hoping is not the right word, but we think there's going to be just one more video for news for this set.
I think so. There aren't that many cards left.
I think it's probably about 17 or 14 cards, and then there are the Enchanted.
Yeah.
But the Enchanted, we always finish by covering the dedicated video, right?
Yeah.
But we covered a lot today, actually, a lot of cards.
It is a lot of cards.
Good ones.
A lot of exciting cards. Yeah. Which ones are you most excited about? And do you love discard as much as we do? Let us know down below. And of course, if you want to stay up to date on all of the latest reveals, be sure to hit the subscribe button and give us a like. It really does help us out, and it makes sure that more people can see this kind of content. And if you want to pre-order any of these cards, the pre-orders are already available on TCG Player. We are now, excitingly, TCG Player affiliates. So we have a link down in the description. You can click to purchase cards. It's the easiest way to support the channel. Yeah. It costs you nothing, and we get a little bit as well.
Any purchase you do, you get a very tiny percentage, but any help helps the growth of the channel. And obviously, Azurite Sea is just around the corner. So if you want to be on top of all the releases, because we're covering every single product, every single detail on day one, fingers crossed. So just hit that notification bell, as Charlie said, so you'll get notified as soon as this is out. And if you want to discuss with us everything about the game, come join us on our Discord server. The link is just down in the description as well.
Yeah, and last but not least, a huge shout out to our YouTube members. Again, it really, really helps us here at the channel, helps us improve the setup and make these videos for you. So thank you so much to all of our YouTube members. And if you're interested in learning about YouTube memberships, you can click the join button down below, see all the details, but absolutely no pressure.
Thank you so much for watching. And as always, happy questing.
Happy questing.